Hey guys, Arvindh here from arvindsundar.com, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about a question that somebody had asked me in my email. It's like, how do I do minimum viable marketing? And that's what this entire video is going to be about. When you break it down, minimum viable marketing is all about doing the bare minimum, right? Just focusing on the key essentials. And when that comes to marketing, it's all about validating your product idea. Now, if you're thinking about it as a video game, it's about what kind of a game do you want to play? Do you want to play as a fighter who's going up close and personal and killing monsters? Do you want to fight like a wizard, throwing spells and fireballs and meteor swarms from far away? Or do you want to sneak around in the shadows as a thief? In short, how do you want to go ahead and approach the problem that you're solving, and how do you want to make that entire experience, right? You are essentially trying to find out what works best. What works best for your hero, that is your customer, what works best for the monsters that they have to fight or the problems that they have to solve, and what works best for breaking them out of their broken world and into paradise. The place that they were before, where they have the problem, and the place that they want to get to. Now, when you're digging into this, you might be asking yourself, why should I even bother with this? There's a couple of reasons. The first is so that you save time and money, right? Before you write a single line of code, before you shoot a first video, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're actually making things that people want. And if you're not going to be doing this, why even bother spending that time and that effort? I know this because I have made this mistake in the past, and I have coached a ton of companies, and I probably shut down like about 11 of them, well, not my own, but my clients, because, hey, they had a problem, but the problem wasn't important enough, right? So you want to do that validation before you dive into the whole thing. Apart from that, you also want to reduce that heartache, because there is nothing sadder than you putting in that, blood, sweat, tears, and effort, and skipping on video games and food and whatnot, just so that you can build this thing. But if no one's buying it, and if it's not going to take off, it sucks, and you really don't want that. And finally, taking an iterative approach allows you to minimize risk, right? So it's not about just doing the marketing until your product is launched, but even afterwards. You can use the insights that you gather by this process to go ahead and shape and influence what you're actually building. Now, when you're thinking about this, how do you start? It's very simple. You start by listing out your hypothesis. If you're on this channel, you should definitely check out the Marketing for Builders course, where I talk about the game plan. And you use that game plan to capture your problem, your idea, the thing that you're building, right? And whatever you list down over there, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and capture all the assumptions that you're making in there, right? And once you have that, you want to go ahead and validate these assumptions. And the fastest way and the most effective way that I know of doing this is to go out there and speak to your customers, right? And then what you do is you're going to swap out different plans, different parts of the game plan, right? And you're going to arrive at what works for your market and the problem that they have by a process of elimination. You're going to take out the parts that don't work, and you're going to plug in the parts that actually work. And once you have something that works, then you can look at scaling. But wait, because there are a couple of things that can trip you up in this process, right? The first thing that you got to watch out for is not having analytics, right? It's very good to just go completely on, okay, you know what? I get a good vibe on this because I'm an expert in this field. I know this place like the back of my hand. That's cool. But your gut feeling does not necessarily, is better than data, right? What you want to do is you want to capture data. If you're having qualitative conversations where, it's not just tracking of numbers, then you need to have a formal mechanism of tracking all of this. If you're sending traffic to a landing page to validate, for example, then, hey, conversion rates, click-throughs, whatever you want to measure. Making decisions based on data is a very, very good practice. So if you don't have analytics, that can trip you up. Next one is a psychological thing. It's a fear of failure, right? There's this little demon inside our heads that says, you are not good enough. We don't want that demon, right? So be careful. Know that that demon's going to come and say, you're not good enough. You're going to fail. So just make sure that that's not going to mess up your head when you're doing this process. And finally, I think there's one more. Your ego or your hubris kicks in, right? I am an expert. How dare you recommend that I go and speak to others? Well, gee, you are the expert. You're not the person with a problem, right? In our situation, the customer is the hero, and they are going to define every single thing that we're doing. And finally, when you're collecting all of these data points, you might have analysis paralysis. Should I do A? Should I do B? Should I do C? Right? And it's very common. But if you are aware that, hey, this thing's going to come up, you're going to be better off deciding what you want to go forward and move with. Now, that said, here are 3 ways that you can do this, right? Number 1 is to launch off an MVP campaign, a minimum viable product campaign, right? For marketing. And that what you do is you take one hero, that's one customer, one monster, that is one specific problem that is pressing and something that the hero is willing to pay money for, and one weapon, that is one solution that you're giving, and you promote it in one channel, right? So what happens in this is that you can keep on trying to iterate on each of these until you find something that works. So you don't need to spread yourself out thin. You don't need to try out like a bazillion different images and messaging and communication, right? One channel, one product, one customer, one problem, right? That can greatly speed up your time to market and, help you get out there with a product and then iterate based on what you're learning. Next thing that you can do to get like the quantum of responses that you want is you could borrow audiences. You could pay for it, you could barter, you could earn a new audience, or you could set up partnerships. These are all viable ways because what you want to do is you want to get eyeballs onto your idea and onto your product. And finally, when you find these early adopters, get referrals from them. Build a community around them, and even better, loop them in terms of shaping the product. And a great way of doing that is by building in public. Now, if you're with me so far and you find that, hey, you really, really need to get this right and that you want a painkiller product the next time that you're building something, well, I have something for you, right? This Friday, I am running a workshop, which is about how do you find a painkiller product idea. Apart from the workshop, we are also offering an async version where you can go ahead and watch the recording of this workshop and understand. And beyond that, there is also coaching. So if you do need that, check out the link in the doobly-doo. And I wish you the very best of luck with your minimum viable marketing efforts. Over and out.